It was a bright Monday morning in downtown Chicago, the kind of day where sunlight spilled through the tall glass windows of the prestigious Wellington Tech headquarters. The marble floors gleamed, the air smelled faintly of coffee and ambition, and every employee moved with purpose. But beneath the polished perfection of the building, there was a man whose life was anything but glamorous, a janitor named Miguel Alvarez, 46, quiet, humble, and invisible to most. That morning, CEO Harper Langford, 39, stepped out of her sleek black car, juggling her phone and handbag, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Her expression carried the cold precision of a woman who had built an empire through grit and sleepless nights. What no one knew was that behind that polished exterior, Harper was a single mother raising her 11-year-old daughter, Sophie, after losing her husband 2 years ago in a tragic car accident. The world saw a powerful executive, but at home, Harper was just a woman fighting exhaustion, regret, and the growing distance between her and her little girl. Sophie, once bubbly and talkative, had become withdrawn. Her teachers complained that she was falling behind in math, the one subject her late father used to help her with. Harper tried to fill that void, but her workload and emotional exhaustion made it impossible. Each night, she'd return home late to find Sophie asleep at the kitchen table, surrounded by crumpled worksheets and teardrops on paper. One afternoon, however, something changed. Harper got a call from Sophie's teacher saying her daughter had shown an incredible turnaround in math. She was solving complex equations, even helping classmates. Her performance now ranked top in her class. Harper was stunned. She wanted to believe it, but Sophie had been struggling for months. When she asked her daughter about it that night, Sophie just smiled mysteriously and said, "Someone's been helping me after school, Mom." Before we continue this emotional story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of hidden good deeds, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts all around the world. Harper assumed it was a teacher or maybe a classmate's parent, but when she asked who it was, Sophie only said, "He works in your building, Mom." That answer puzzled Harper. She brushed it off until one evening she forgot an important file in her office and drove back to the building around 7:30 p.m. The halls were mostly empty, the lights dim. As she passed through the corridor near the janitorial room, she heard soft laughter echoing from the staff lounge. Curious, she peeked in through the slightly open door and froze. There, sitting across from her daughter at a break table, was the janitor, Miguel Alvarez, the same man she'd passed dozens of times without a glance. Sophie was grinning, pencil in hand, as Miguel gently explained a complex algebraic problem on a whiteboard using nothing but a marker and pure patience. His voice was warm, steady, and filled with encouragement. Harper's first instinct was alarm. What was a janitor doing alone with her daughter? She stormed into the room, startling them both. Sophie dropped her pencil, while Miguel immediately stood up, visibly nervous, wiping his hands on his uniform. "Mrs. Langford, I can explain," he began. But Harper cut him off sharply, demanding to know why he was teaching her daughter instead of doing his assigned duties. Her tone was harsh, cold, a reflex from years of running a company where control meant survival. Miguel didn't argue. He simply lowered his gaze and said softly, "Your daughter has a brilliant mind. She just needed someone to believe that." Harper, still fuming, ordered Sophie to wait outside and told Miguel that he was out of line, that he should stick to his role and stop interfering with her family. He nodded silently, apologized, and returned to his work. But as Harper drove home that night, Sophie sat in the back seat with tears in her eyes. "Mom, he wasn't doing anything wrong," she whispered. "He's been helping me understand things no one else could. He said math is like music. It just needs rhythm." Those words lingered in Harper's mind all night. The next morning, something inside her urged her to check Miguel's employee file. She discovered that he'd only been working there for 6 months, hired through a cleaning service. But what caught her attention was his education record. He once studied mechanical engineering at the University of Illinois. Curiosity turned to guilt. The man she had scolded might have been far more capable than she ever assumed. Wanting to know more, Harper discreetly asked her HR manager about him. The report revealed that Miguel had once been a professor in Mexico, specializing in applied mathematics, but fled to the U.S. after his wife died from cancer, leaving him with a teenage son he later lost in a border accident. His entire life had unraveled. Now, He worked whatever job he could find, janitorial work included, just to survive. That afternoon, Harper saw Miguel quietly mopping the executive hallway. For the first time, she noticed the wear on his hands, the tiredness in his eyes. Approaching him gently, she said, "Mr. Alvarez, I owe you an apology." He looked startled, unsure how to respond. Harper continued, "My daughter told me what you've done for her. You didn't have to, but you did. Thank you." Miguel smiled faintly, shaking his head. "You don't need to thank me, ma'am. Sophie reminds me of my son. He loved math, too." There was a painful softness in his voice that made Harper's chest tighten. Over the next few weeks, Harper found herself drawn to their after-school sessions. She started leaving the office earlier just to watch them from afar. Sophie's confidence bloomed. The shy, grieving little girl now laughed freely, her eyes bright with curiosity. Miguel never asked for anything in return. He used cardboard pieces and recycled paper for teaching tools, creating clever examples out of simple things. One afternoon, Harper joined them at the table. Sophie giggled as her mother tried to solve one of Miguel's math riddles and failed miserably. They all laughed, and for the first time in years, Harper felt her late husband's absence lessen, replaced by something warm, hope. As weeks passed, Harper learned more about Miguel's life, his degrees, his losses, and how he'd given up his dreams of teaching to survive as a janitor in a foreign land. One day, Harper quietly arranged a meeting with the company's board of directors. When they gathered in the conference room, she told them a story. Not about quarterly profits or stock performance, but about a janitor who had transformed her daughter's life with nothing but compassion and knowledge. The room fell silent as she concluded, "Talent can hide anywhere. Sometimes it just needs to be seen." The next morning, Miguel was called into her office. He walked in nervously, assuming he was in trouble again. Instead, Harper handed him a crisp envelope and said with a smile, "Mr. Alvarez, I'd like to offer you a new position, senior education consultant for our company's youth program." Miguel's eyes widened, his hands trembling as he opened the letter. Tears welled in his eyes when he saw the title and salary. "But I don't deserve this," he stammered. Harper smiled. "You deserve more than this. You reminded me what leadership really means." A word spread quickly through the company. Employees who had once walked past Miguel without a glance now greeted him with respect. Sophie proudly introduced him at school career day as the man who made math fun again. A month later, Harper launched a scholarship fund in Miguel's late son's name to support underprivileged students pursuing STEM education. Miguel helped design the program, mentoring dozens of young minds who reminded him of everything he'd once lost and regained. One sunny afternoon, Harper stood at the back of an auditorium as Sophie walked onto a stage to give a speech. She looked out at the crowd, her voice clear and confident. "My mom taught me to work hard," she said, smiling toward the audience, "but Mr. Alvarez taught me to believe in myself. He showed me that heroes don't always wear suits. Sometimes they carry mops." The crowd erupted into applause and Harper wiped away a tear. After the event, Harper walked up to Miguel. "You've given my daughter more than I ever could," she said softly. Miguel shook his head. "You gave me a reason to believe that kindness still matters," he replied. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Harper looked out from her office window, the same one she'd stared through countless lonely nights. And for the first time, she didn't feel alone. She saw light in places she'd never looked before. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Let's keep spreading stories that remind the world of the power of compassion and redemption. And before you go, comment below with these words: kindness can change lives. Because somewhere out there, one small act of kindness might be waiting to start a miracle.